Emma Watson and Daniel Radcliffe have finally admitted defeat, not against Hollywood, not against the critics, but against the very woman who created the world that made them famous. According to insiders, the Harry Potter stars have realized that they simply cannot win in their ongoing feud with J.K. Rowling. Every word they say, every attempt at reconciliation only leads to another public storm. And now, after years of headlines, clashes, and bitter accusations, both actors have decided the only way forward is silence. But how did things get so messy between the once inseparable author and her chosen stars? And why do Emma and Daniel believe the only option left is to walk away? The revelation comes from a close insider who told reporters bluntly they can't win. Every time they comment, Rowling fires back, and it spirals into another war. It's not that Emma Watson and Daniel Radcliffe don't care anymore. Quite the opposite. They've spent the last several years trying to use their voices responsibly, navigating one of the most heated cultural debates of the decade. But each attempt to speak with compassion, nuance, or even restraint has only made them bigger targets for Rowling's sharp responses online. This lose-lose dynamic has worn them down. Publicly challenging Rowling invites another round of backlash. Attempting peace gestures ends with Rowling mocking them as naive. And staying quiet risks being accused of cowardice. After countless cycles of this, both actors have now reportedly decided to step back entirely, hoping silence will stop the never-ending firestorms. But the irony? The retreat itself has only fueled speculation. Fans are now asking if this feud has become so toxic that even Harry Potter's most beloved stars are being forced into exile from their own legacy. Emma Watson's most recent attempt to mend fences seemed heartfelt. On the Jay Shetty podcast, she said that while she disagrees with Rowling's views, she still treasures her as a person. Watson believed that compassion might ease tensions, offering a rare olive branch in a climate that had been hostile for years. But insiders say the gesture just made it worse. Rowling responded on X almost immediately, blasting Watson as ignorant of how ignorant she is. She went further, claiming that Watson only softened her language because she realized that full-throated condemnation of Rowling was no longer fashionable. To Rowling, Watson's kindness wasn't compassion, it was calculation. And this wasn't the first time Rowling had flipped the narrative back onto her former star. Over the years, Rowling has repeatedly implied that Watson's perspective comes from inexperience, dismissing her opinions as lightweight. For Emma, it was a devastating reminder that even when she tries empathy, it becomes ammunition for her former mentor's next broadside. But if Emma's compassion failed, what about Daniel Radcliffe? Did he ever stand a chance of avoiding Rowling's wrath? For Daniel Radcliffe, the situation is even trickier. Friends say he's painfully aware that any public statement he makes instantly becomes fuel for another Rowling tirade. Back in 2020, he was one of the first cast members to break ranks after Rowling's controversial comments about transgender rights. In a widely praised essay for the Trevor Project, Radcliffe wrote, "Transgender women are women. Any statement to the contrary erases the identity and dignity of transgender people." It was a clear, unambiguous stance, but one that drew him directly into Rowling's crosshairs. Since then, every interview or quote has been dissected as part of the larger Rowling versus Radcliffe saga. In 2024, he admitted in The Atlantic that Rowling's anti-trans comments made him really sad, explaining that his years of work with LGBTQ+ charities made silence impossible. Still, he stressed that his hope was to support those hurt by Rowling's words, not to deepen the rift with the woman who gave him his career. Yet Rowling has shown no signs of letting up. Every word Radcliffe says is twisted into another headline. Insiders say he now feels trapped. If he speaks, he fuels the fire. If he stays silent, he's accused of ignoring injustice. Either way, he loses. To understand why this feud feels endless, you have to go back to 2020. That year, Rowling mocked an article about people who menstruate, tweeting sarcastically, "I'm sure there used to be a word for those people. Wumben, wimpund, woo mud." The reaction was instant and fierce. Critics accused Rowling of transphobia. Supporters defended her as a feminist standing up for women's spaces. Rowling doubled down with a lengthy essay, arguing she wasn't anti-trans but was instead defending biological sex. She shared her own history as a survivor of assault, framing her stance as rooted in safety concerns for women. But for the young stars of Harry Potter, who had grown up seeing their work embraced by LGBTQ+ fans, this was a breaking point. Radcliffe, Watson, and Rupert Grint all issued public statements affirming trans rights. Emma wrote on X, "Trans people are who they say they are and deserve to live their lives without being constantly questioned." Radcliffe's essay made headlines worldwide, and Grint, usually the quietest of the trio, stepped forward to say, "I firmly stand with the trans community." From that moment, the once magical bond between author and cast was shattered. Rowling wasn't just criticized by strangers. She was openly opposed by the very faces of the franchise she created. Rowling didn't forget. She has spent years taking subtle and not so subtle shots at her former stars. In April 2024, she lashed out again after an independent review on medical transitioning was released. When a fan suggested Watson and Radcliffe should apologize, Rowling quipped, "Not safe." Celebs who cheered on the transitioning of minors can save their apologies for traumatized detransitioners. It was a stinging rebuke, implying that Watson and Radcliffe had blood on their hands for supporting trans rights. Rowling then doubled down, suggesting both actors had used their Harry Potter fame as a platform to attack her personally. The attacks became personal, relentless, and public. Rowling even accused Watson and Radcliffe of trying to act as de facto spokespeople for the world she created. And that line carried a clear message. The franchise might belong to fans, but in Rowling's eyes, she alone owns its legacy. The Harry Potter cast itself has become fractured. Rupert Grint remains firmly aligned with Watson and Radcliffe, but not everyone sees it their way. Robbie Coltrane, before his passing in 2022, defended Rowling, saying critics were waiting to be offended. Ralph Fiennes also stepped in, claiming the level of hatred aimed at Rowling was irrational. The split left fans reeling. Suddenly, the people who once symbolized unity against Voldemort were divided against each other in real life. Was Rowling the misunderstood truth-teller, unfairly demonized by modern culture? Or were Watson and Radcliffe the true heroes, standing for inclusivity against an outdated worldview? Even years after the original feud erupted, there is no consensus. And with every new Rowling tweet or podcast appearance from Watson, the fracture widens. The latest spark came in September 2024, when Watson appeared on the Jay Shetty podcast. She carefully explained that although she disagrees with Rowling, she still treasures her and refuses to see people as disposable. It was a deeply personal attempt to rise above cancel culture, to suggest that human relationships are bigger than politics. But Rowling's response was swift. On X, she blasted Watson and Radcliffe once more, accusing them of assuming a right to publicly critique her just because of their past association with Harry Potter. Rowling insisted that while their beliefs were legally protected, they had no authority to speak for the world she created. For Watson, what was meant as a bridge only deepened the chasm. Instead of reconciliation, she received one more wave of scorn from the very person she hoped to honor. And so, Emma Watson and Daniel Radcliffe find themselves in an impossible bind. For years, they've tried compassion, silence, activism, and honesty. Nothing has worked. Every move they make fuels the drama. The franchise that once united them has become a battleground where every statement is weaponized. For both actors, stepping back entirely now seems like the only path left. But stepping away from Rowling also means stepping away from a huge part of their legacy. Harry Potter isn't just a film franchise, it's a cultural milestone. For millions, Emma is Hermione, Daniel is Harry, and Rowling is the architect of their childhoods. Now that legacy is caught in a storm of division, and fans are left wondering, can you separate the magic of Hogwarts from the controversy of its creator? Or has the Harry Potter world itself become permanently scarred by the feud between Rowling and her chosen stars? The truth is, no one comes out of this unscathed. Rowling has her defenders, Watson and Radcliffe have their supporters, and the debate shows no signs of slowing down. What is clear is that the actors feel they're in a lose-lose battle, where speaking, staying silent, or even showing kindness only brings more fire. For them, the safest option now is silence.